Deuteronomy 28, blessings and curses. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of Jehovah thy God, to observe to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that Jehovah thy God will set thee on high above all the nations of the earth. So when we set him apart, he sets us apart. And all these blessings shall come upon thee, and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of Jehovah thy God. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy beasts, the increase of thy cattle, and the young of thy flock. Blessed shall be thy basket and thy kneading trough. Blessed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and blessed shalt thou be when thou goest out. Jehovah will cause thine enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thee. They shall come out against thee one way, and shall flee before thee 7 ways. Which means you gotta have at least 7 enemies to go 7 ways. Jehovah will command the blessing upon thee in thy barns, and in all that thou puttest thy hand to, and he will bless thee in the land which Jehovah thy God giveth thee. I always push the wrong button. Jehovah will establish thee for a holy people unto himself, as he hath sworn unto thee, if thou shalt keep the commandments of Jehovah thy God, and walk in his ways. We show God that he is set apart in our hearts by following his commandments, not nitpicking them, not thinking we have a better way, but it's through obedience to his commandments and his ways. And his ways are best. And if you study him long enough and you think about it in light of everybody, his ways are best. Our natural bent is that his ways aren't best, and we can do better. But we see how that's been working out, and that's later in the chapter. And all the peoples of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of Jehovah, and they shall be afraid of thee. Jehovah will make thee plenteous for good in the fruit of thy body, in the fruit of thy cattle, in the fruit of thy ground, in the land which Jehovah sware unto thy fathers to give thee. Jehovah will open unto thee his good treasures, the heavens, to give the rain of thy land in its season, and bless all the work of thy hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. Are we a lending nation, or are we a borrowing nation? And Jehovah will make thee the head and not the tail, and thou shalt be above, and thou shalt not be beneath, if thou shalt hearken unto the commandments of Jehovah thy God, commandments written in this book, which I command thee this day to observe and to do them, and shall not turn aside from any of the words which I command you this day, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them. So the blessings is for obedience to his words and his ways, to realize they are the best, to know them, to live them, to set him apart by doing them, and then he in turn will set us apart. Now we get to hear what happens when we don't set him apart, we don't obey his commands. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Jehovah thy God. To hearken unto his voice, we've got to have a personal relationship to him. To observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Now, a lot of people like to look at this and say, this is just applied to the nation of Israel. Well, the nation of Israel were his people, set apart unto him, that he set apart unto him. And now that Jesus has come, when we call ourselves Christians, we are telling him we are setting him and his ways apart, and we become his people, and he sets us apart. Okay. All these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. All these curses. Doesn't mean necessarily have to come all at once, but here we go. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, cursed shalt thou be in the field, cursed shall be thy basket and thy kneading trough. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, the increase of thy cattle, the young of thy flock. Do we have famine? Verse 17. Do we have birth defects? Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. Do we have those things because we're not doing things God's way? We deny God, or society denies God, and tries to come up with other ways and offer other solutions so that everybody can do things their way instead of his ways. And it's a spiraling, it's a death spiral. Jehovah will send upon thee cursing, discomfiture, and rebuke in all that thou puttest thy hand unto do, until thou be destroyed, until thou perish quickly, because of the evil of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. We've forsaken him when we don't do things his way. This is the bad week of the coronavirus, they say, in the United States. So here we go. Jehovah will make pestilence cleave unto thee until he hath consumed thee from off the land whither thou goest in to possess it. Jehovah will smite thee with consumption, and with fever, and with inflammation, and with fiery heat, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. And thy heavens that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. Jehovah will make the rain of thy land powder and dust from heaven. Shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed? He does this to try and draw us back into him. Not because he's vindictive and mean, but he knows that his ways are best, and he's trying to convince us that his ways are best. So when these things come, and they will, because we are not obedient, then these are the consequences. Jehovah will cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and thou shalt flee 7 ways before them. And thou shalt be tossed to and fro from among all the kingdoms of the earth. At least 7 of us are going to go to our enemy, so it's going to be a group thing. And thy dead body shall be food unto all the birds of the heavens, and unto the beasts of the earth, and there shall be none to frighten them away. Jehovah will smite thee with the boil of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with the scurvy, and with the itch, whereof thou canst not be healed. Jehovah will smite thee with madness, and with blindness, and with astonishment of heart. He wants us to come to him. He wants us to have a relationship with him. And we only do it when we realize that doing things other than his ways isn't getting us anywhere. And that is always true. And thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in the darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and robbed away, and there shall be none to save thee. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not use the fruit thereof. Sounds like taxes. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Anything getting taken from us that's not restored? Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to save thee. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day, and there shall be naught in the power of thy hand. As we don't follow the Lord's ways, it affects our children. Not only does it affect us, it affects our children. The fruit of thy ground and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt only be oppressed and crushed alway, so that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see. Jehovah will smite thee in the knees and in the legs with a sore boil, whereof thou canst not be healed, from the sole of thy foot unto the crown of thy head. Jehovah will bring thee and thy king, whom thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation that thou hast not known, thou nor thy fathers, and there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. Thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, a byword among all the peoples, whither Jehovah shall lead thee away. If you call on him, if you truly set him apart, he will set you apart. If you claim to be his, but you don't really set him apart, this is what happens. Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and thou shalt gather little in, for the locust shall consume it. Thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but thou shalt neither drink of the wine nor gather the grapes, for the worm shall eat them. Thou shalt have olive trees throughout all thy borders, but thou shalt not anoint thyself with the oil, for thine olive shall cast its fruit. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but they shall not be thine, for they shall go into captivity. Slaves, our kids will become slaves. And all thy trees, and the fruit of thy ground shall the locust possess. The sojourner that is in the midst of thee shall mount up above thee higher and higher, and thou shalt come down lower and lower. So those that are with us because of the way we are, but aren't one of us, will go up, and the true followers will go down. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be in the head, and thou shalt be the tail. And all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed. Why will we get destroyed? Because thou hearkest not unto the voice of Jehovah thy God, and have a relationship, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. So many claim to have a relationship, but they don't know his commandments and his statutes. They cherry pick what sounds good, and it's the entire package. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Because thou servest not Jehovah thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, by reason of the abundance of all things. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, that Jehovah shall send against thee in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee. Jehovah will bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, that shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young, and shall eat the fruit of thy cattle, the fruit of thy ground, until thou be destroyed, and thou shalt not leave, and also shall not leave thee grain, new wine, or oil, the increase of thy cattle, or the young of thy flock, until they have caused thee to perish. Eventually, God's people in Jerusalem went under siege, and all this happened. And they shall besiege thee in thy gates until the high and fortified walls come down, wherein thou trustest. Don't trust in walls, trust in him, throughout thy land. And they shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which Jehovah God hath given thee. And thou shalt eat of the fruit of thine own body, the flesh of thy sons and of thy daughters, whom Jehovah thy God hath given thee in the siege and in the distress, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee. So during the siege, they actually ate their own kids. And Babylon took over Jerusalem. Now, a lot of what happens in the Bible repeats, because this word is for those people in the desert, but it's also for us. So don't think that was a one and done thing. It could happen again. The man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children whom he hath remaining, so that he will not give to any of them the flesh of his children whom he shall eat, because he hath nothing left. He hath nothing left him in the siege and in the distress, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in all thy gates. And all this because they did not know his commandments, they didn't set him apart, and they would not follow him. They wanted to do things their ways. They thought they had all the answers without him. And this is what happens, and this is what happens now. The tender and delicate woman among you who would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter, and toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children whom she shall bear. For she shall eat them for want of all things, secretly in the siege and in the distress, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in thy gates. This is a pretty good description of selfishness. We can get so selfish, so me-focused, that we'll eat our own children. If thou wilt not, and this happens, if thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, Jehovah thy God, then Jehovah will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sickness, and long continuance. Great plagues of long continuance. And he will bring upon thee again all the diseases of Egypt, which thou wast afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee. Also every sickness and every plague, which is not written in the book of this law, them will Jehovah bring upon thee, until thou be destroyed. He's trying to get us to destroy self and come back to him. Come back to him in relationship to him. Because if he calls nicely, but we do things our own selfish ways, we're not going to listen. It's only when we're in crisis. It's only when things are not going the way we think they should. It's only when we feel helpless will we even consider that the way we've been doing things may not be the best, And then there's a chance that we'll acknowledge his ways. There's a chance we'll have relationship to him and we'll come to him. Some people will curse him. And ye shall be left few in number, whereas ye were as the stars of heaven and for multitude, because thou didst not hearken unto the voice of Jehovah thy God. And it shall come to pass that as Jehovah rejoiced over you to do good and to multiply you, so that is his wish, that is his longing, is to do good to us and to multiply us. So Jehovah will rejoice over you to cause you to perish and destroy you. Ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest in to possess it, all because we reject him. So if we accept him, we get one thing. We reject him and do things our ways, we get something else. And Jehovah will scatter thee among all peoples, from one end of the earth even unto the other end of the earth. And there thou shalt serve other gods which thou hast not known, nor thy fathers, even wood and stone. Backing up one verse, when God, it's God's world, he created it, and he knows the best way to do things. And we come along and think we know better, it usually ends badly. Okay, 65. And among these nations thou shalt find no ease, and there shall be no rest for the sole of thy foot. But Jehovah will give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and pining of the soul. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear night and day, and shalt have no assurance of thy life. In the morning thou shalt say, would it be even? And at even thou shalt say, would it be morning? But the fear of thy heart which thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. Interesting verse. We're always looking ahead. And isn't that how we get? If we could just get here, things would be better. If we could just get here, things would be better. But when we're with the Lord, things are pretty good right now, and we're not always looking ahead. And Jehovah will bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way whereof I said unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall sell yourselves unto your enemies for bondmen and for bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. So, his people, who he said, don't look back to Egypt, don't go back to Egypt, he'll bring us back to Egypt as slaves, and nobody will want us. That's kind of the end. Nobody will want us. Father, we just admire you, Lord. Lord, help us to reject our own selfishness. Help us to reject any selfish way. Help us to look to you, Lord. Help us to pray for those who don't look to you, Lord, that they might look to you. And when we see other people, Lord, whose God is not you, Father, help us to give us guidance in what to do. Give us guidance in how to pray, Lord, and they would come to know you. And then we would get back to the first part of the chapter, which was the blessings, Lord. Not that we want blessings, because the greatest blessing of all is relationship to you, Lord, regardless of our circumstances. Relationship to you is the greatest blessing of all. Personal, hearing your voice, knowing your ways are best. Nothing else matters. And we just thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.